Hey yo, actually Among is here. We are joined once again by the homie Arrtz. Say what's good, Arrtz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? What's good, bro? What's good? We in the spot.
So we doing a quick little simple reaction video. I'm gonna keep the intro to a minimum. This is a video by Mr. Moet, and he's gonna introduce himself. I'm gonna let him do his little intro real quick.
Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm back. It's Mr. Moet, and it's the same day, so that's why I'm wearing the same shit. But and I look the exact same. I just ate. That's all that really changed. Well, it's been a few hours. Let's see. I think I recorded the first
See, like
video.
I said, he's gonna have a little
Been
time
like 4
wasting.
hours, maybe something like that. I just ate. I ate some chicken and mashed potatoes. It was delicious, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for the video. As you probably saw the title,
Man's had the grub on deck, the good eats.
The
our
title,
Smogon bands actually necessary.
our Smogon.
Yes,
the
that's the
title
title of the
on
video.
YouTube is.
So
Our
you're looking at
Smogon
this
bands bad per competitive, so I'll let him get that off real quick. I thought we would, before he says his position, because I want to listen to a position, a person's argument, and kind of just give our thoughts as we go. But just on the simple question, kind of yes or no, are Smogons bad per competitive? And personally, I'm talking about specifically singles.
So I personally think there's good and bad to it. I think as long as it's not like, as long as the ban is reasonable. Now I understand that everyone has their own opinion on whether something could be reasonable or not. As long as you have like enough valid arguments to why something should not be allowed in a certain tier. So basically this question also we broke it down to: do you think tiering in Pokemon is necessary? Because that's all essentially the bans are, putting the Pokemons into different tiers. So when I think of it at that standpoint, I think it could kind of make sense because I think tiering just is a way of trying to keep the game as competitive as possible.
Well,
Because obviously some things are way more broken than others.
to make my opinion like as concise as possible, I think that bans in singles should be kept to a minimum. I do like tiering. I like that you brought up that point, and I hope it comes up because I see that as a good answer to banning. I mean, we have tiers like Ubers and anything goes for a reason, but I'm gonna play the video a little bit more. But I just wanted to get the quick going into it.
Like, what's going on here, Chris? What are you doing? Why our Smogon? What do you know about Smogon bands? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I know nothing about them. I know nothing about Smogon anymore. I have no clue what's going on over there. But I looked on my YouTube page
He has a
after
good
I
point.
was
I've kind of
finished
lost the plot
uploading
with some
the
of their
other
bands
video I
in Gen
did.
9.
and it had inspiration. It had this tab here for me, and it was like, "Yo, make a video." So I was like, "Okay." So here's some AI slot video I'm gonna throw together for you. I hope you enjoy.
Wow.
All right. So to start off with, you might be surprised to learn that some of your favorite Pokemon are banned in competitive play. Ooh, but are these bans justified? We explore the controversial world of Smogon bans and examine the arguments for and against their necessity. Let's start with a case for bans. Bans are all about keeping the game balanced. When a single Pokemon or strategy completely dominates the latter, it limits viability.
So let me bring this point up
When
too.
a
It's
single
not like
Pokemon or
Smogon
strategy
is the only thing that bans it. Because, like for example, when you go to Worlds or whatnot, even if you're just trying to rank the ladder in the actual Scarlet and Violet games, they also have their forms of ban,
Yeah.
as such as like the restricted Pokemon and things like that.
See,
So I mean, like, go ahead, my fault.
well, the thing for me, I think that it becomes a problem because the typical banning process seems to be like, oh, this is really difficult to deal with. There's only so many ways we can find to deal with it, so we're just going to deal with it like this. Ban.
All right, because like for example, like
the latter
go ahead, let him talk. Let's talk because
limits
we'll
viable
keep this
counters,
strictly.
stifles creativity, and often forces mirror matches.
Right. So that's what I was
Right,
saying. That's
right.
the argument that I will
Mega
hear.
Rayquaza or Shadow Tail.
Because I was gonna say, like for example, like I said, I know we want.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Like for example, when Mac be doing his singles ladders on ranked when he does his stream, like all you seeing, because there's a lot less bans, particularly in the game right now. All you're seeing is a whole bunch of Zacian.
Yeah,
And like the meta becomes very limited when there aren't bans. I think when you ban things, you kind of give yourself, even though you're limiting the pool that's there, you kind of open the gate to more possibilities because it forces you to use other things.
That's true.
I think when something is so broken, it kind of really forces a certain type of meta, and like he just said right there, like mirror matches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, get it right. They always said this about you. Think Mega Rayquaza or Shadow Tag Gothitelle. These aren't just strong; they warp the metagame around them. Okay, let's pause from the AI slot for half a second. Now, what they just said here, in my knowledge, my past knowledge, they're not wrong. Okay, obviously they're not wrong. It's a computer; it knows what it's talking about. Mega Rayquaza was game warping. Did they say that?
Yeah, I mean, I
Mega
think
Rayquaza
Zacian's a better
limited
example,
viable counters,
but we get the
stifled
point
creativity,
with Mega
and often
Rayquaza.
forced mirror matches. I mean, they're not. This is just true. These are good points.
If you
I mean,
can
you gotta
use
ban
Pokemon,
Pokemon.
why
that,
wouldn't you? Basically,
that
being the point.
force everybody to play around.
Right.
You can't be forced to play around. Pokemon that are too strong. It stifles. It limits viable creative. By banning certain overpowered elements, Smogon helps preserve diversity.
I mean,
By
yes and
banning
no,
certain
though.
overpowered elements, Smogon helps preserve DEI. Suddenly, players can bring niche strategies, off-meta picks, and creative builds without being steamrolled by the same 3 threats every match. And let's not forget player enjoyment. Nobody wants to feel helpless against a strategy that has no reliable counterplay. Bans can smooth out the competitive experience, making the latter a place for experimentation.
All right, I'm gonna pause him right there because here's the thing, though. I think it's yes and no, and like I totally agree about the mirror matches. There's some good points for yes, but I just want to put it out there that even when a ban takes place or series of bans that forms a meta into a certain way, like the same problem about certain Pokemon rising to the top and there being a lack of creativity, it all comes back around again. Like, that doesn't actually ever make a meta not exist. Like,
So I guess what you're saying is if you ban like the most broken things, there's just something else because those things are banned that's
yeah, what I'm saying is if you go on Showdown right now and play some Smogon OU and you play like 100 games or however many, 10 games, you're going to see things over and over again. It may not be, if you think that Zacian is the strongest Pokemon in the game, he's not going to be in OU. But something's going to be on...
at the top of the meta in OU.
Right. If you play 10 games, something's going to be on 3-4 of them teams. The same Pokemon ran the same way.
I get what you're saying, like Argonapple.
No matter what they ban. Something's going to be that way.
But I think the argument that what she mentioned is that at least those things have a little bit more counterplay to it, as well as the things that they try to ban. Like, part of the reason is that there is such limited counterplay to it. I think that's the argument that was trying to make there.
I like this. Okay, ChatGPT. These are some good arguments. Basically, ChatGPT is saying you can't play the game to its full potential because Nintendo is too stupid to balance their game around the singles ladder. Nobody cares about your dumb doubles. Balance the game around singles.
I don't think that's a Nintendo thing, though.
Flip the
that's not like, no matter what game you play. Like, for example, let's throw Overwatch in this. When you have this many different characters, because each Pokemon is essentially its own character. When you have all these different characters, things naturally is going to be stronger than other things. You get what I'm saying? Because that's the point of, like, when something's this diverse, certain things are just always going to counter other things no matter what you do. When you start building out a roster, like, there's freaking over 1,000 characters in Pokemon if you want to base it like that. You could never balance something perfectly with that much stuff going on.
Right, and
so it's not that Nintendo was stupid. That's a bad take.
I don't think singles and doubles are inherently more and less balanced. I do think that Nintendo does design Pokemon knowing
for specific
that their
whether this is doubles and with certain
their
singles.
VGC games are going to be played in doubles, but that doesn't mean that singles isn't balanced. Like, not it's kind of the same as doubles, right? Like, you get the same thing in doubles, centralized meta.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of a bad. Like the way he spent it was bad.
Yeah, it's not Nintendo's fault.
Some argue bans can actually limit creativity. Whoa. By removing top tier threats, you're also removing the challenge of adapting to them. Isn't innovation about finding counters, not removing problems?
But the Naruto hand sign was...
Oh, no, this is one. Okay, so...
Let him cook, Lucas. Let him cook.
If you were actually like Hive Mind Gigabrain, you would see a broken threat. Like, let's go back to their thing. In Ubers, you would see something broken like Mega Rayquaza, and you would figure out you would need to play your own Mega Rayquaza. You being Giga Ultra Ascension man or woman would figure out a way to counter and really, Isn't innovation about finding counters, not removing problems?
I mean, that's kind of the argument I'm making, so I'm trying to wait for him to make a
There's
point
also the issue of overreach. Not every strong Pokemon is...
So, overreach, I think I need to let him cook right there, because overreach maybe is, like, touching on the point against what I'm making, but I just wanted to point out that is kind of my thing, that I would rather, me personally, if I felt that way, you know, I'm playing Ubers, Mega Rayquaza is available in the game, and I don't want to use Mega Rayquaza, but I want to beat other people that are playing Mega Rayquaza. I don't feel like that's that big of a problem to have to figure that out. Like, that's the nature of the game, and I don't mind to... I feel like that is innovation. I mean, just to kind of quote the ChatGPT thing. I'm going to let him cook, but I just wanted to point out he kind of stumbled on that a little bit because he didn't really... It's a good point.
Sometimes a mod is banned just for being really good, but not unbeatable. Punishing players who found a way to make it work without breaking the meta. Okay, now this is actually a fair point that ChatGPT is making.
He's speaking sign language?
There have been arguments for bans that I can remember personally, where people felt like the ban wasn't suitable for the top tier competitive players, or vice versa, that there are Pokemon that should have been banned if not for the mass community, the community at large, the mass community, like a church mass where everybody would gather and give money to one person.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's actually going to make the point, so I want to maybe help him out there a little bit, because this is another thing I've heard of. I've heard of this argument for bans a lot of the time. I want to put it out there just for the sake of non-bias, that at the highest level of competitive play in tournaments, and we talking about people with like 80% win rates and higher and stuff like that, that these people become so good that you, by allowing Pokemon that are so centralized and they're so limited counterplay against them, it can become like a flowchart playing Pokemon, and that's why they want these things banned, because they feel like that takes the skill out of it at that point. I still kind of feel like, honestly, if you put my feet to the fire on that point, I still kind of feel like you're playing against the player and it's not really ever a flowchart, because if it's really what they say and at the highest level everybody knows what all these Pokemon are going to do and the lines of play against them, well, you know, then mind games come into play, and that's just the next layer of skill that you have to master. And so,
like you talk about with the mirror matches and stuff,
right? And so, right, exactly. And at that point, that's what VGC players are dealing with. Every meta since forever and it is what it is.
Right.
I don't know if he's gonna get to it.
The
but
people there, they might not think a Pokemon is broken, or they might think a Pokemon is a lot of fun and it's not a big issue, and they'll want to keep a Pokemon unbanned, while top players will be like, no, that is way too strong. So this idea of bans maybe like hitting the wrong subsection of a player base is a little, there's a line to it, because you don't want to cater specifically around your top 1% or 2% of your competitive player base, right?
Well,
because you have a lot of people you have to cater to.
I'm trying to
There's a lot of people that are playing the game. It's not just the
though.
1% that are super competitive that you have to cater around. So I feel like there's a good in between.
I'm talking about Smogon specifically.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to get to it. I think he's about to move on to the next.
But you know what? I think you're right, because they only let you, like, you're not even allowed to vote on bans and stuff like that unless you're a certain level.
That's exactly what I was about to say. And so, right, I was just going to put it out there. I'm not saying, this isn't anybody in particular, but hypothetically speaking, let's say that you were new at the competitive scene. You suck. Let's just say it that way. You suck. You're not good yet, but you really like are into playing right now. You care a lot about it, and you really want to vote on the bans and stuff like that. You see the picture I'm trying to paint here, but like, okay, let's just talk real talk. In this hypothetical, you aren't gonna make Rex. That's why I say you suck, and you don't even have to suck to not make Rex. I think that by the way that they put it, you have to have a certain win percentage in a certain amount of games, and like they basically make it so if you're not really good, you don't get to vote. More than just if you suck. You can't be just good either, I feel like. You got to be pretty good to vote. Right. So they do cater to just a very, very small percent.
That's a fair point. I agree with you with that.
Yeah, what about little Timmy, who's trying to learn the game, and like, I mean, just because they ain't got the experience and they can't hit that certain benchmark, like, I don't know if their vote is not worthy.
Right.
And sometimes Amon is banned just for being really good, but not unbeatable, punishing players who found a way to make it work without breaking the meta. Yeah.
Plus, not to talk over him too much, but
sometimes you gotta
I'm sure there's a lot more little Timmys than world champions out there, right?
Can sometimes lead to less diversity. Didn't you tell me this? When certain top threats are removed, the meta can settle into a predictable loop where only a handful of safe strategies dominate, and everyone plays. Okay, this right here is a perfect example of what happened in Gen 6 X and Y. X and Y is, in my opinion,
and I think it's what I was saying a minute ago. Other people have
different opinions. My personal opinion, you're watching my video, right? Or nah, go watch them other niggas. I personally think X and Y Gen 6 was too boring. It was too stall orientated because there's too many bans. They banned too many potential wall breakers, and it kind of forced the meta into a place where you had to play, if not full stall, semi-stall the whole time. So there is some truth to that. But the argument against that, people will say, is, and you can go watch their fucking videos, not if you really want to listen to them, but the argument that they would say is that doing that made the meta more competitive, and it put everything on a more equal footing, so that way there was a truer skill expression, or whatever the fuck that means. All right.
What do you think about that?
Well, specifically the Gen 6, that's when I had got back into Pokemon. So, like, it all just felt new to me again. So I enjoyed Gen 6. Although, back then in stall was a big problem back then, but it's because you had, like, the mega... Like, there was legit full stall teams. I mean, it's not as much now. But yeah, Gen 6, I definitely agree with it. Then Gen 7 somewhat too. Yeah, Gen 6 definitely did have a stall problem.
My thing,
and he's saying it was because of the bans.
Yeah, my thing on it is I feel like whenever these bans, I don't know, maybe this is getting into a little bit of the hot take territory, but I feel like there's this like feedback loop in a way where a very low percentage of players who like to play in a way that they can have a very high win percentage get to vote, and they get to ensure that they get to vote by the voting system being having a high win percentage of the game. And so then these players, because they like a high percentage win, a high win percentage play style, they tend to ban in favor of defensive play styles and banning wall breakers and things like he just said. And I've always felt like that's been a consistent problem.
But do you think that's intentional on their part? Or do you think that's just what happened?
I think that's the way that they like to play, and they don't really.
So you think they're doing it intentionally?
I think that they don't really think. I think that they're doing it intentionally because they think it's right, but I think it's more of like their flavor than right. Mm-hmm. And so that creates a problem. Because they also don't allow other people with other tastes to vote with the system that they use to make it so you can vote.
Okay.
All right, next one.
I see what you're saying.
Section 3, the current landscape. Smogon's recent bans, like the ban of Houndstone and early Scarlet and Violet, due to last respects abuse. And I just want to add a little asterisk right there. I don't know if this is true. I don't know. I did not research this to make sure ChatGPT didn't lie to me. I am not verifying this. I cannot stress this enough. I literally have no idea if this is true or not, what I'm about to say. But I 100%, and I can, and I
It is true, right?
I unequivocally stand by what I'm about to say. Smogon's recent bans, like the ban of
Houndstone and Annihilate was banned pretty early,
sparked massive discussion. Some praised the quick action.
Yes, we
Others
had these
felt
discussions.
It was too fast, not letting the meta settle naturally. There have been some positive outcomes. The meta feels less centralized around a handful of gimmicks, and matchups are more varied. But at the same time, there's growing concern over ban culture, that players push for bans too quickly rather than adapting. Community sentiment is mixed. Some applaud Smogon's democratic process, where tiering councils and suspect tests allow for discussion. Others feel the ban criteria can be vague, and the process sometimes favors high usage complaints over actual imbalance.
All right, so
he's saying this sometimes is just due to usage rate instead of.
I mean, he's just pointing out he's pointing out the fact of certain things were banned and it caused a heavy discussion, but I wanted to kind of hark back to that point that I just made, that the Pokemon that were banned at the beginning of Gen 9 were Houndstone, Annihilate, and it allowed other Pokemon, like at the time, at the beginning, before, like pre-DLC Scarlet Violet, I remember being a bit frustrated with the meta because things like Garganacl were kind of running wild, and things like Annihilate, Palafin, and Houndstone had been banned. And honestly, Houndstone in particular, I'm not sure if it's really so crazy as people make it out to be. Annihilate, pretty crazy. Palafin is strong. It's very strong Pokemon naturally for, like, you know, you don't have to do anything really to make Palafin so strong. Barely.
Switch out.
Yeah, barely have to do anything. So I can understand those more. Houndstone as like a comeback mechanic, if you can pull that off, I feel like it's kind of valid to be able to do it. If you get, you know, if you have your last Pokemon Houndstone, first of all, Team Preview exists. Your opponent knows you have Houndstone. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they tend to favor offensive threat. Or banning offensive
in terms of
threat.
banning.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be honest. I was just reading that, so I didn't really process it in my head. Give me a quick second. Dabba 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 doo, dabba 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 doo, dabba dabba doo. All right. Houndstone banned too quick. There have been, okay, so Smogon has a thing where they will quick ban.
I mean, Houndstone was like the first ban, right?
At the beginning of a metagame.
It was definitely one. It was Houndstone like Annihilate, because Annihilate with Rage Fist.
There will most certainly always be something that is extremely broken for OU. And then there might be occasionally there's something that's too powerful for Uber, but that's an occasional thing. Normally, I mean, those suspect tests, sometimes, you know, it's not unusual for a suspect test to have an Uber, but I mean, off the rip, for the game to include something that's too strong for Uber is normally not the case. But to include something too strong for OU is normally the case every game. Normally every game, every new game to start off the meta, they have to quick ban something because it's too broken. I understand that. And there isn't a need for things like that. There isn't a need for people to try and adapt around it because it's unhealthy for the metagame. So if the new thing is like too centralizing, there's no need to let it kind of linger around and see how people adapt to it because it's too good, and you're never going to reach a point where you can play the game without being worried about said centralizing thing.
Okay, but the argument against banning was mainly that it was too soon. And furthermore, like, my thing on it, when it comes to Annihilate and Houndstone, like, maybe Annihilate is the top tier threat that he's talking about because it has the ability to use rest, recover status, things like that. Mm-hmm. But really what I feel like we seen in Gen 9 was they started to introduce a new way of breaking down high defensive walls, because there's a ton of those types of things. I don't even have to, you know, we talk about how for generations stall was a thing. So in order to make it easier to break walls, things like with Unaware, I'm really talking about most specifically, they gave us access to moves that can break walls instead of by using boosts and things like that, which obviously don't work against these Pokemon I'm talking about. They can just hit them with a higher power move like Last Respects or Rage Fist, and people didn't give it the time to be able to adapt to that. They were just like, nope, we don't like that. That killed my Unaware Clodsire.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean,
Nintendo decided.
Go ahead.
I kind of lost my thought. Go ahead.
Good for their little fucking doubles bullshit, and didn't think about the singles game because they don't understand what really keeps people motivated and playing. So I really think quick bans are actually a good thing for the most part. They can be a little too crazy sometimes, but they do have I think Smogon has a good process where the quick bans, and then if they feel like they overstepped, the community feels like they overstepped with the quick ban, they suspect test it in reverse. They make a ladder where they release it and they see how broken or not broken it is, and then, you know, give it a whirl from there. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I stand by that 100%, even though I have no clue what is going on in Scarlet and Violet. Conclusion: the ongoing debate. At the end of the day, the debate.
It sounds like he doesn't play that much anymore.
It's Scarlet and Violet. On one hand, they can save the meta from becoming stale and frustrated. On the other, they can restrict creativity and create a false sense of balance. So we want to hear from you. Do you think Smogon bans help or hurt competitive play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And let's keep this discussion going. And remember, whether you're OU, I cannot believe this. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I cannot believe this bullshit they want me to say.
This is why I would not.
And remember, whether you're OU, UU, or living that Nat Dex life, stay engaged, stay strategic, and stay salty.
Yeah, this is why I would not make my video.
Man, at the end of the day, though, at the end of the day, like I said, I understand, but at the end of the day, you don't have to adhere to none of the bans or not. Like at the end of the day, you really don't have to.
My favorite way to play singles is like, I'm going to pull up with whatever I want to pull up. There might be days when I want to pull up with some Pokemon that are not the best. You know, they ain't going to get banned from Ubers in any world.
Smogon's not the end all, is not the official law of Pokemon.
Yeah, sometimes I enjoy pulling up with that, and sometimes I'll use things that are a little bit more, you know, potent on my stream and stuff like that. And really the way that I handle this thing is, you know, viewers, I can't actually stop them. There's no Pokemon police. They're going to say, oh, you're arrested for pulling up with Zacian. So it's just like, I mean, if I pull up, I'm playing you know, Sunflora team just because I'm trying to meme out or do something like that, and you pull up with Zacian and you get the easy dub. It's like, yep, you sure got the easy dub. You made sure to get that one. All right, GG.
Yeah,
and then maybe
like I was saying, but like Smogon is his own platform. Is not the end all. Is not the like the God's word of Pokemon. Now, if you choose to use their platform, just abide by their freaking rules. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but it does create like a dissonance, because if you go and you try to play their stuff, you have to like learn, and it really is. If you come from not playing Smogon all the time, you maybe like 3v3s on the Switch games, or maybe you just like to battle with your friends. And you hop on Smogon, you're like, I'm gonna test my skills. I really feel like you have to look at what offensive wall breakers are currently banned, because they do tend to have this like echo chamber of favoring safe defensive strategies. And
like to this day, I don't know why Garganackle doesn't have some bans on it, bro. That mon is
that mon's crazy.
Annoying.
It's clearly one of the most foolproof, like,
tanks,
easy bucket Pokemon that they made for Gen 9. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying that. Same with the Nihilape, you know. That was what I was saying about the quick ban thing, is that it's fine to have a process, because maybe some Pokemon really are what he described, but, like, you do also have to find a better balance and take your time. And he just kind of was like, nah, they do what's best. And it's like, do they though? And Garganackle's still running free. You know, like, there's always a stall team every generation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm carrying on. We'll cut it off and say, as he was, you know, we'll do the non-AI version, and let us know what y'all think in the comments, especially if you watching to the end of the video. You know, AI ain't got to tell us. We appreciate those of you who stick through the whole conversation and let us know your thoughts. Personally,
facts.
I like to ban the minimal possible, but maybe I need a more nuanced approach. So,
I mean, like I said, if the ban makes sense, I'm all for it. They said you don't want to go ban crazy either, because then like you don't even get to have fun with the new Monzo world. But it's like,
yeah,
like I said, as long as there's great reason behind it, because like I said, you don't want to face the same thing over and over, because that's just like I said, like perfect example. Like I keep saying, the ladder. You hop on the ladder, it's just damn every freaking game. Not only is that not fun to play against, but that also makes the game kind of boring. You get what I'm saying? Because it's like you're literally just doing the same thing over and over. So I mean, there's, like I said at the beginning, there's pros and cons to everything, and that applies to this as well.
Right. Well, we're gonna sign off. Let us know what y'all think in the comments below. Check out both mine and Arrtz channels. Leave a subscribe, and we will catch y'all next time. Peace.